Good morning, everyone, and welcome to worship. The Lord is here. His Spirit is with us. Well, this week we've been thinking about things that we value, things that we treasure, that are special to us. We started on Monday, didn't we, with Mrs. Hodgson thinking about harvest and all the things in the natural world, the seasons, the weather, the things that grow that give us our food. And then on Tuesday, we had the parable called The Pearl of Great Price. Do you remember the merchant who spotted that beautiful, exquisite pearl and wanted it so much that he sold everything he had so that he could buy that one pearl? And then yesterday we had a parable that was a bit similar. Mrs. Hodgson told you about the man who found some treasure in a field. And he thought, oh, I love this. I'll bury it, hide the treasure, and then I'll sell everything I have and get money together to buy the field, which he did so that he could own the treasure. And at the end of worship time yesterday, Mrs. Hodgson set a challenge to think about the things that you value and things that you treasure. And she asked us all to share them with her. And Laburnum class in Year 5 sent us an email. So I'd like to share that with you. So these are the things that children in Year 5 value. Share that screen. There we go. So Laburnum class value all these things. They treasure their family and friends and school. It's good to see school there on the list, isn't it? Dogs and cats, some pets, special bunny teddy. Knowing that my family is safe and they stay strong, that's something that we're really thinking about at the moment, isn't it? Food and water, yes, those things that we take for granted. And then there are some things that we do in our leisure time. Football, drawing, Nintendo Switch, and then God, teachers, gymnastics, PlayStations, Christmas, and having fun. Bed. It's a bit of a drizzly morning here filming, and it was a bit hard for me to get out of my bed. I treasure my bed as well. Happiness, yes, all those memories that we make. And they can be through exciting things or just simple things, can't they? Like a walk in the park or a picnic with your family. Happiness comes in all shapes and sizes, doesn't it? Family activities. Yes, having that quality time together is really important, isn't it? Rugby, traveling, money. There's a little rider next to this one. It gives you happiness, but not love. So money can be really useful, can't it? Garden. We've spent a lot of time in our gardens this year, haven't we? And I've certainly got to appreciate mine more. Love. Yes, we all treasure love, don't we, in different forms. Jesus, and a nice house and a roof over my head. That's another thing that we often take for granted, isn't it? Now, these things are special to the children in Laburnum class, and I think most of us can identify with lots of these, and we share lots of these together, don't we? If we lose something that's special to us, something that we treasure, then that can feel really unsettling, can't it? Sometimes we lose things, maybe a cat or a dog goes missing for a while and they come back, and that relief that we have when something comes back that we love or somebody comes back is huge, isn't it? Sometimes you may have lost a toy, a special toy, like a teddy bear when you were little. Maybe you never found it. And maybe you still have memories of that special toy and you think, oh, I just really miss my teddy. So losing things can be really hard, especially losing things that we treasure or that are important. Now I want to tell you a quick true story, because yesterday all the teachers stayed at school for some training. We trained in lots of different classrooms and different offices on our phones or through our laptops, because the trainer was hosting the meeting by Zoom, just like we're doing now. And she was in Buckinghamshire, so she was training us all on things that are useful to know in school. And at the end of that, it was quite late because she had lots of information for us and it was really interesting. And about 5:30, we were all saying goodbye. And gradually all the teachers left. And I said to Mrs. Hodgson, oh, I'm so tired, I'm going to go home now and have my tea, see my family. And we said bye. And as I set off, I was tapping my pockets. I thought, that's strange, my keys not in my pocket. Oh, they must be in my bag. No, not in my bag. Must be under a pile of paper on my desk. No, I had lost my car keys. Now, as you can see, luckily, I did find them eventually with some help. But after school last night, it must have taken over half an hour. And it's really frustrating and upsetting when you lose something that's important. And it's not really that the keys themselves are important. It's what the keys unlock for me, isn't it? I wanted to get home. I wanted to see my family. Also, as well as my car key, there's my house key, garage key, there's even my mum's house key, mum's caravan key, all kinds of keys on here. So this little bunch of metal is really quite important to me because it means I can go to these different places. Now, Mrs. Hodgson didn't say, oh, well, never mind, I'll see you tomorrow, good luck, hope you find them. Because she's a really good friend, she stayed and she looked everywhere with me. She even drove round to the infants and went in all the offices over there. We went across the playground. I looked in the bushes outside of school. And I texted Mrs. Sutcliffe in the office and said, you didn't see my keys before you left, did you? Did somebody hand them in? Perhaps you put them in a safe place. And Mrs. Sutcliffe very kindly came back to school. And she said, I remember when you went out today, because I went to visit a family where the people in the family are isolating today. I went to check on them, make sure they're okay, and I went to see a teacher who's not in school at the moment. When I came back, I was in a bit of a rush, and she said, you were carrying a bag. I said, I was, a plastic bag. It had cushions in that Mrs. Lord had stitched in special white clean fabric for after school club children. And she said, I bet you dropped them in the bag. And I said, I would have never have thought of that. So Mrs. Sutcliffe rushed down to the cupboard where the cushions had been put, and sure enough, she said, ta-da! And she got my keys out of the bag, and I said, oh, thank you so much. You're like my guardian angel. You were looking after me, and you helped me find my keys. And I said to Mrs. Hodgson, thank you. You can go home for your tea now. We were so relieved that we could go home to our families. Now that reminded me of some other parables that we've had. And there's 3 parables all about the same theme of losing something. And the third is about a lady who lost a coin. And Jesus told this story. Once there was a lady. She had 10 coins. Now it looks like they're attached to a hairband in this particular version of the story, doesn't it? Sometimes they're just in a pile or in a bag, but it looks like she's got them on a very pretty headband. Look at my coins, she said to her friend, and she was admiring them, wasn't she? You can see how shiny they are. She's really chuffed with those, isn't she? Well, one day she was doing her work. Looks like she's sweeping, perhaps outside in her yard. And I don't know whether you've spotted something, but there's a bit of a problem with the front of her headdress. Can you notice something? One of the coins has gone missing. Well, when she discovered it, she was mortified. Oh, my special coins. This was a special present from her husband, and it meant a lot to her. I've got to search high and low for that coin. She tried to remember what she'd done that day, just like I did last night. It's called tracing your steps, isn't it? Going back, trying to remember all the places you'd been, all the places where you could have put it. She swept and swept and searched and searched. Her floor was made of mud, pressed down mud. So it was quite a messy job, quite dusty. She looked where she did her cooking. Perhaps she dropped it in the cooking pot or even in the embers of the fire. She searched on her hands and knees behind her water jars. It's quite dark in her house because at that time people didn't have windows, not very many windows, perhaps just like a little hole with maybe a shutter or a cloth. So she lit a lamp to search the darker rooms in her house. She looked absolutely everywhere, high and low. She looked outside, around her garden, and eventually she noticed something glinting in the yard. Perhaps it had fallen between a crack of the stones. Yes, she'd found it. She was absolutely delighted. You can see from the expression on her face how pleased and relieved she was. Now she could fix her headband and it would be good as new. Look, she said, I found it. I've stitched it back on. Wow. Her friends were so pleased for her. They could tell how much that little coin had meant to her. They were so excited and they shared her celebration. So Jesus told 3 parables about being lost. I wonder if you can remember what the other 2 were. A couple of clues behind me. We started off with the lost sheep, didn't we? And then we had a story about a lost son, or a loving father welcoming his son back, this son that he thought would be lost forever, who went away and wasted all his money. So, lost sheep, lost son, and today, the lost coin. I wonder why Jesus told the same kind of story 3 times. Maybe it's because sometimes people understand things in different ways. When he told the story about the lost sheep, I should imagine that the shepherds and the farmers, people with animals, would really relate to that story, wouldn't they? Because they'd know how precious each of their animals was. And then he thought, well, maybe I need to tell this story again in another way, because some people are not understanding it, and the message in these stories about the lost things is really important. So I know I'll tell the story about people, because relationships and family relationships in particular are really important to people. So if I tell a story about somebody getting lost and then found, lots of people will be able to understand that. And then maybe Jesus thought, well, there might still be some people that are not getting this message. So I'll tell the story about money, because that's important to a lot of people, isn't it? And then everybody should be able to relate to this message about something precious being lost and then found. I wonder if you can remember what that special message is. That's right, it's all about God valuing each one of us. And if we were lost, then God would search and search and search, and he wants us to come back to him, doesn't he? So we are so precious. These stories about the lost sheep, the lost son, or the prodigal son, and the lost coin all remind us that we are precious to God. We are his treasures. And that helps us to remember that everybody is equal. We're all equally special to God. And that helps us also to remember that we should treat everybody like they are God's treasure. That can really help us in our relationships, can't it? So this morning, I just want you to think for a moment about the things that you value, the things that you treasure. I'm just going to say a prayer together. Dear God, thank you that you love us so much, that you want to look after us every day, whether we are big or small, old or young, girl or boy. Help us as we learn about you from stories from the Bible to know that we matter to you more than anything. Amen. So I want you to remember that you are very, very special to God. And wherever you are, whatever you're doing, just remember. I'll see you later. Have a good day.